Hey everybody, welcome to the Tesla Life episode 24 for October 11th, 2017. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host, and flying with me today, my favorite Tesla Life co-pilot, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Just coming in for a landing. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the show. That's a little bit of effects for the show. Here we go. Yeah. As you can see, we blew the budget on that one for sure.
That's it. That uses up our production budget. We got to end the show. Thank you, folks.
Yes, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a bunch of cool news stories to share and talk about today because, as normal, it was quite a week in the Tesla life.
It was a big week for Tesla. Well, let's get right into it. Otherwise, we're not going to have enough time to cover everything. Mark, why don't you start us?
Well, the first thing that came up was, and this is just a quick note that Elon Musk got his name dropped on television on the CBS network. He was part of not really part of a plot or anything, but his name was dropped on Star Trek Discovery, the new Star Trek show, on episode 4. He was lumped in with the Wright brothers and another fictional character in the Star Trek universe. And was mentioned to another person in the shot about how these people were visionaries and how do you want to be remembered as this or that? And of course, his name was lumped in with the group that you would like to be remembered as. So
you're Elon Musk, and you get lumped in with the guy who didn't invent, but whatever, invented the airplane. You and the guy who in the Star Trek universe invented warp drive.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's some heavy company.
So obviously the writers of Star Trek hold Elon Musk in high regard.
I'm thinking their Model 3s going to that.
Maybe there is an alternative motive. Yes, that the reservations are flowing a little bit more freely towards the Paramount studio or whatever studio is now taking that over.
I think, is it still Paramount? It might be.
That was the old one, so I was just guessing, but I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting, watching the show and picking that up. It was like, what did he say?
Yeah.
He said Wright brothers and Elon Musk? Really? So I had a few people prompt us on the Twitter feed and say, did you hear that? So there was obviously a few people watching it at the same time that I was. So that was kind of cool. By the way, if you're not following us already, jump onto the Twitter feed at the Tesla Life and follow along during the week. Next, we had the semi event that we talked about last week that got locked down for October. Got pushed back. So Elon got on Twitter and indicated that it was going to be pushed back into November. And he cited a couple of reasons. One being that they're trying to remove the Model 3 bottlenecks that have hampered the ability to push those Model 3s out. And secondly, I guess he's been in discussions with the governor of Puerto Rico, talking about how they could revamp the power system in Puerto Rico to make it more resilient in the future.
Wow.
As well as trying to push out more actual batteries to be sent to Puerto Rico, so more battery power walls and such to be sent as a higher priority to help the people in Puerto Rico out, who there's a lot of them that are still without power to this day.
And that sucks. And it's cool that Tesla's there to help.
Yeah, well, they're trying to help. It'll be I don't know what, and there was no real details about the logistics or how many were going out, but in his tweet he indicated those reasons, and he got a favorable return back from people on Twitter about addressing those reasons, as well as pushing the semi launch back a little bit. Well, almost about 3 weeks. He got it pushed back. Yeah. So it is what it is. But kind of interesting that they had even cited the reasons about the Model 3. We know there's a bottleneck. We know there's been some issues, and we also have a story later in the show that highlights some of the ones that have been flagship problems for them with this launch.
Indeed. And we will get more into Model 3 problems, as Mark said, later in the show. Interestingly enough, this was going to be like a really angry rant for me. And then Mark told me right before the show that the reason for my really angry rant has evaporated. So I have to calm and collected, which isn't really like me, but anyway.
You'll collect it together. You'll do it.
So we know it had to happen at some point. It's going to happen. And the first used Model 3 was listed for sale on Craigslist in Santa Cruz at wait for it, $150,000. Now
that's about the selling price, isn't it?
Yeah, that's obviously a crazy price, but keep in mind who this person is, Oh, and I'm sorry. And Mark, the update was that, yes, this was VIN number 209, and it had been removed from Craigslist today, just a couple hours ago. Mark told me right before the show. I didn't even know it.
Yeah, so someone jumped out and, well, obviously with a VIN number of 209 that was published, Tesla knows who they sold that car to, employee-wise or investor-wise, or whoever that person is, that insider is. And, of course, the friend-DA came out and bit that person in the ass, I'm sure. And they said, you know what? Get that thing unlisted now. And it happened.
It's interesting how much power Tesla has over this.
Not really, though. Come on. Like, it's if you're in an NDA and they say you can't do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm still a party to some NDAs and stuff I can't talk to, and
like it just makes sense. Like if you've signed something that okay, maybe you didn't read it, who knows, but still, you signed it, you were aware of it before you got involved with it, and that's it. And in fact, I even think there's another part of that NDA or part of that agreement that indicates that if a person is going to sell the car, first of all, they can't sell it above what they paid for it.
Right.
So, obviously 150,000 is just a slight bit more than what they paid for it. And that was probably one of the things that was, got them in trouble immediately, as well as every media outlet picked this story up and published it. So I'm sure it was, all across the Tesla office, the minute that the Tesla office opened this morning, that, this was going on. Like, you can't hide this stuff. Like, you get media outlets that are dying for a new story, trying to get something else published.
Absolutely. And who else is dying here? I mean, the big car companies. They would love to have bought this car and been able to tear it apart and reverse engineer it and see what's going on. The same thing happened with the other models. The article here that that Audi bought an early Model X. Ford supposedly paid $55,000 over what it cost for an early Founder Series Model X.
Right.
That's and we know why, because maybe that gives them 3 months or 6 months ahead of somebody else's engineering department.
Yeah, and for the larger companies like that, I'm sure it's just a drop in a bucket to go get yourself one, spend that kind of coin, and like you said, get that jump start so that they're aware of what is actually there.
Oh, hell. Yeah. I mean, Ford and Audi spent $150,000 on billboards in a week.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
So there were a number of comments across the Facebook feed and the Twitter feed about people saying, that's ludicrous. Who would ever spend that kind of money? That's insane. And you know what? There's a number of big car companies that would line up to do that. So I think the guy would have no problem selling it once it got publicized a little bit.
It would have been interesting to see how much it would have gone for.
Yeah, but I'm sure that the purchaser would have threw them under another NDA to say, shut up about it.
Right. Exactly.
But since this guy couldn't follow the first NDA, I don't know. Maybe we would find out.
Yeah.
But anyways, as of a couple hours ago, it was taken down from Craigslist, and there's no more Model 3s for sale on the used market currently.
No used Model 3s. You'll have to order one.
But as we do know, this month, is it this month or next month, that they start to be sold to others outside of the Friendier. And at that point, all bets are off. Anyone can do anything with those cars.
Right. And that's when we'll see those vicious greedhead bastards putting them up on eBay for $100,000 and $80,000 or whatever they can get for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, ticket scalper mentality.
Yeah. Car scalping. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad that you exist in the world.
Well, you know, that'll be a kind of like a price dictates it, because you'll have people that are on the East Coast that would really like the car. They can't get it, and I'll spend the extra 20 grand and get it. You know, because that kind of stuff will happen.
Sure. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It will be.
Maybe 20 is a crazy figure, but 10 or 15.
Maybe
someone will do it.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what these cars do sell for on the open market when people do start scalping them, because it's going to happen. You've got to know that it's going to happen. I'm sure Elon has spent some time, not Elon personally, but vetting that list of those early deliveries, though, to try to stem that, you know, because I don't know.
I wonder how much vetting of the list he could actually do once it gets outside of the employees.
Come on, he canceled the reservation of some dude who complained about parts.
Well, that's true. That's true. I guess it doesn't take much. If you piss him off, he goes, "Let me see if that guy's on the list."
Right, exactly. You have to know that there's someone at Tesla with a database that says, "Oh, no. Okay, we can ship to that one.
Here's this one. Here's that one. Delete that one. Yeah,
right. Move that one down about 150 spaces." So, well, the next topic is 4 news articles that are loosely connected. And I'm going to start with an article from Ed Niedermeyer, who is well known as being a very deeply critical person of Tesla. And I don't say that as an insult. I think in some ways the service that he performs is holding Tesla to the standard that all car companies should be held to, that we hold other car companies to on what drives us, for instance. He had a source that said that the bottleneck, is that the company that is developing the so-called alien dreadnought, that is developing the automated body production line, isn't deployed yet. In fact, it's in Michigan making body panels and shipping them to California because they haven't quite figured the whole thing out yet.
So that could be a reason that instead of 1,500, only 200 were put out.
That seems to be the consensus after this article got out, and there was a lot of discussion on Twitter and whatnot about it, was that, yeah, that kind of seems like you're whittling them by hand. And
so the car, you're saying the car is made out of balsa wood?
Yeah. Totally, right? Ed Daily Kanban checked with an analyst at Auto Pacific that says that the typical rate for production of a hand-built vehicle is 5 to 8 per day, 150 to 200 units per month.
Right.
Tesla's produced 220 in the last 3 months. So, I mean, clearly, when Elon says he's in production hell, that doesn't mean that he's pumping out tens of thousands of vehicles, at least that we know of. It means that he's trying to get to the point where he can do that. And that's one of the things that Tesla's doing. Now, I think for some people, this is like damning evidence that Tesla's can't produce cars and won't be able to. And that goes to another story which I'm going to throw in here from a guy named Peter DiLorenzo, who's the auto extremist, who wrote the story about how Tesla's doomed and blah, 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 and they're horrible and they'll never do what they want to do. And sadly, I think articles like that are so hyperbolic and so inflammatory miss the important stuff, which is like, hey, don't I recall somebody making commitments that we're sure we can do this and we're sure we can do that, and then not doing it?
Yeah.
Not only is that dangerously like misleading your investors, but that's kind of like just being full of shit, which is, I think, a reasonable brick to throw at Elon Musk in this case.
Yeah. Well, Elon, as we have said many times in the past, he's extremely optimistic about a lot of things, and not barring what his numbers are when it comes to rollout of any of his products. He is extremely optimistic.
Yes.
Although during this launch, he has mentioned that he believes this S-curve will happen for the ramp up, but he doesn't know when. But of course, being the CEO of a company, he's got to tell Wall Street something.
Yeah, and it's a fine line, and I'm not here to make that call tonight. It's a fine line between misleading people and between going, damn it, we tried.
Yeah.
From a company standpoint, from a manufacturer standpoint, that whole damn it, we tried thing, that excuse doesn't work very many times. You're right. You know what I mean? You're supposed to have your shit together. You're supposed to be able to predict these things and know how things are going. Yet there are problems with everything. And I think a point we made on the show over and over again is the people, the Tesla haters out there, and I'm not classing Ed Niedermeyer in that group, but the Tesla haters out there really don't understand, like, why can't Tesla do what Chevy does? Well, Chevy's been doing it for 100 years. They have some experience. Tesla's been in this business a much shorter time, and we're talking about technology that isn't ubiquitous. They don't have off-the-shelf OEM suppliers in some cases. They've had to figure this stuff out themselves. And that makes manufacturing something as complicated as an automobile exceptionally difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I felt like I was ranting there, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. I wouldn't even call that a rant. It's what, like you said, it's a fine line. And it's like, if you just keep saying that everything is great, everything's great, everything's great, and every time you're wrong about it, then you're right. It starts to look like all you're doing is cheerleading for Wall Street, and you're not stating the facts as you see them.
Yeah, or you have no clue, and you don't really. Either one's bad.
Right.
Well, either you're totally not in touch with the production end of your business, or you're just trying to blow up your stock value, and that's not very good.
Exactly.
Speaking of stock value, the last part of this story comes from a CNBC story about investors, and I just love this phrase. Here's the headline of the article is, quote, "Investors giving cash incineration engine Tesla a lot of rope, but may soon lose patience." Again, to be really not to dig into this too much, but yeah, sure, they're going to lose patience, and some investors will, and some investors have been shorting Tesla the whole time. And just this last couple of weeks, they've been able to make a little bit of money because Tesla stock dipped down, and then it went back up, and it's dipped again. Not as much, but it's again, these things are going to happen, and I'm not sure that it's fair. I get that it's exciting. It's a great headline to call Tesla a cash incineration engine. No one said that about Amazon. No one still says it about
Actually, when Amazon started, that's exactly what they were calling it.
The cash incineration engine?
Well, they were saying that, this is not a sustainable model. This thing will go under. There's no way it can last. Once people figure out that the emperor is not wearing any clothing, then it's all over at that point. But Amazon didn't. It kept going.
And the stock never went anywhere but up.
Yep.
You know, and that's the thing. And Tesla's, for the most part, I think the Tesla stock, you know, people like, oh, Tesla's totally out of control. I don't know. Maybe somebody who's smarter than me that, you know, knows this math thing, you know, can look at the Tesla stock and go, oh, it's grossly overvalued. I think what Tesla stock owners are investing in isn't the short-term Model 3 production goals.
Right.
They're investing in the one company that does nothing but make what very well may be the future of the car.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's speculation on the future. It's not if they can push out X amount of Model 3s in the third quarter. So you're right. They are saying that this company has made investments that will pay off handsomely in the future.
Assuming Elon can get out of production hell and start pumping out Model 3s.
Right. And, you know, as the people watching this show know, Elon's done this now 3 times. This is the 4th. He started with his Roadster, his Model S, his Model X, and each of the times, you know, there were problems, there were hiccups, there were delays, there were parts problems, there were bottlenecks. This is nothing new to this crew at this point, and they've got the experience of that already. I gotta believe that they will get it right. It's just going to take some more time.
Yeah, I think so too. And the variable here is how much time.
Yes.
You know, and maybe will Elon learn maybe not to promise quite so much next time.
I think that once you get burned on that a few times and you feel the heat of the opposition, that you tend to become a little more moderate with your. Although he went to Australia and said they're going to put a man on Mars basically in 2022, so I don't really know. Like, we're not going to launch one. We're launching 6 rockets, and they're all going to Mars, and we're refueling in low Earth orbit. And like, it's insanity. I hope everyone watched that video from last week. It
was very
truly remarkable.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, your next story kind of goes through sort of a little more details of production hell.
It does. And before I do that, I'm just going to share a little tweet that came from Elon, which relates to this topic.
Not Elon.
And what it is, it's a quick video of the Model 3 on the production line. And he does indicate that this is running at 1/10 the speed, so you can see it. Because otherwise, he would be chastised that this is it running this slow?
I think those robots need to pick up the pace a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, those robots are slow.
So he states in his tweet or in his Instagram or whatever this is that it's running at 1/10 the speed. So here we are in Fremont on the Model 3 line as the robots spot weld the car moving down the line.
Nice.
Yeah, so it is going on. Now, interesting about your story about things being made in Michigan and shipped. There's also been other stories about people on the factory line, like they are the ones that are helping bend some of this aluminum and put things into shape, because you're right, the entire alien dreadnought, as described by Elon, is just not functioning. There's a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of programming going on with the actual machinery. So there's many things that are contributing to this bottleneck that Elon spoke of. And of that, also a story from Electric indicates that Tesla on the early models has been replacing on things such as headlights, seats, and batteries of early Model 3s. So there has been reports, and again, I don't know how accurate these reports are from insiders, because frankly, they could say anything they want, and the media is just picking this up and kind of running with what they hear. But some people are saying that, there are the issues that they're running into and trying to fix as going through a production hell, like headlights, batteries, and seats. So not really sure what to think. I got to believe, as they're saying batteries, that means the main battery pack.
Yeah.
The car probably does come with a 12-volt battery, as others do. But I can't see that being the issue. Most likely they're replacing main battery packs.
Story. You know what? Did you see the story about the Gigafactory production issues?
Remind me, what was that about?
It was just talking about the friction between Tesla. And again, the source for the story, absolutely no way to check it, no way to corroborate it. This was someone that was posting, I'm trying to remember, in a comments thread that claimed they worked at the Gigafactory, and they said that the problem is that Panasonic people, for the most part, aren't very good at what they do. The Americans.
Oh, really?
The Japanese Panasonic people have hired are actually horrible. And one of the problems with the Gigafactory is that it's so remote that finding people that work there, there's no local labor market. You're 30 miles from Sparks, Nevada, which is like, not exactly a teeming metropolis. So they've had a problem keeping good people. And apparently part of the problem with the Panasonic American staff is that they're rejecting batteries, like entire lots of batteries, and just trashing them for very small issues or cosmetic issues or other things that weren't specified. But this is leading to the Gigafactory actually not producing giga numbers. Again, no idea if it's true.
It's a piece of information that comes from an anonymous source, because they can't be named, and it could be really anything. We don't know anything beyond that.
We don't know what production hell means when Elon says it. What does that mean, Elon? Does that mean you can't get batteries, or does that mean the alien's not right? Or, what? There's a lot of vagueness in dealing with this. There's a lot that we don't know. And
he's not going to say specifics, right? Like, why would he? Like, he knows what the issues are, and he's not going to put anything into it that would lead anyone to think that it's more than they can handle. He's going to just say, there's some bottlenecks, they're identified, and we're working on fixing them.
And in that sense, he's no different than any other CEO of any other company, much less any car company.
Yeah.
Right? Because they all, even when they admit in court, or even when they do a settlement in court.
How do we get to court?
No, I'm just saying, but like they don't even, like part of the settlement agreement is always like, we do not admit to doing anything wrong.
Right.
And that's just the way that game is played, as awful as it is. There's not a lot of transparency.
No, because it can hurt the corporation, so they don't bother. They stay away from it, and like you said, they try anything to avoid it. So it's unfortunately, we as people that would like to see this succeed and are watching it, we'd love to hear the transparent discussions and understand what's going on, so we can understand, and we can empathize with what's happening, and we can understand where things are going. But it's probably not good to repeat any of that stuff outside the company, because it can get you into a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of trouble, Tesla's in a little bit of trouble. Of all places, Charlotte, North Carolina, actually in North Carolina. Apparently, the Department of Motor Vehicles in North Carolina has asked Tesla to no longer offer test drives or even ride-alongs with customers.
Wow.
That's
Now, this must be the dealer thing where they're fighting some states about not being an actual dealer.
right.
They're a company store. Therefore, they're unable to sell cars because they have no dealer network.
They technically operate this Charlotte. They have a big center in Charlotte, like everybody does, and apparently it's a gallery. It's not really a dealership. So there's certain restrictions on them that wouldn't normally be in a car dealership, and apparently, for some reason, the DMV is upset about putting people in cars, which is. I really don't understand the law here, but let's be realistic. North Carolina, for all the good things there's a lot of shifty political and legal things going on in North Carolina. So does it surprise me that the DMV would get involved? No, I'm sure that this is an alliance of auto manufacturers or global automakers put pressure on them and said, you got to shut this crap down now. You know what I mean? And somebody went, well, how do we do it? You know what I mean? What tools do you have as a state? You can't just tell them they can't do business. I mean, unless you pass a law, and that requires legislatures.
That requires effort.
Well, effort, but you have to go on record. You know what I mean? Like, you actually these people passed this legislation, so we know they're crooked. I mean, whatever.
They're allegedly crooked, right?
I'm going to leave crooked right out there. Yeah.
Is that my phone ringing?
Yeah. It's not mine. And curiously enough, this request to Tesla from the DMV came just a couple of months after a brand new person was named commissioner of the North Carolina DMV.
Gee, isn't that a coincidence?
I wonder. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, I don't even know what to say other than it's just,
I don't know. These
silly parts crap.
This is more of corporation speak, though, is it not? Like, this is corporations knowing that they have an out or an ability to play a card that will push them forward and somebody else back. And that's the shitty side of capitalism. That's what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Someone with some influence.
Exactly. Yeah. And they pay others off. I'm not saying it's happening in this situation. It's allegedly something's going on, but man, it certainly looks bad the way that it's portrayed. And the people that come into power and who's in power when it happens. And all of a sudden you find out that somebody's brother-in-law is running this division. Like, it's terrible.
Or it's like, so we're going to make you, we're going to put you in charge of the North Carolina DMV. And your first order of business.
Exactly. Is not to keep the house in fiscal order. It's to put a law against this, or it's to change what's going on, to slap somebody with an offense, Yeah.
To limit consumer choices, which makes no sense at all.
It's kind of like, there's a number of states that have those battles going on. Some of the states are winning, and I know that Tesla is fighting them in the individual states to allow them to sell the cars without a dealer network. But man, it takes people that are in touch with the situation to write their government representatives, to contact them, to let them know that there are people watching and they don't agree with what they're doing. That's what it takes. It takes up an uprising, and unfortunately, in a lot of people's lives, they just got other things to do.
Go figure.
Yep.
Go figure. Well, Mark's got the final story of this week.
I do.
Model 3, because it's just been a Model 3 show.
The whole thing, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't have the final story.
Well, so Electric posted a story. I'll do the intro. How's that?
Okay.
A story about Tesla buyers. Let me read the headline. Quote, Tesla buyers to have access to federal tax credit well into 2018 as U.S. deliveries reach over 140,000 units. Because the Model 3 hasn't ramped up the way it's supposed to, even though S and X production has been really strong, we're looking at 140,000 vehicles from Tesla. Right.
And that, of course, is a question on many people's minds that have ordered the Model 3 as to whether or not the $7,500 U.S. federal tax credit is going to be available when their car shows up. And in a lot of cases, people are depending on it. So Tesla is having to, they're kind of walking this thin line that where is the number? Because, of course, after they reach 200,000, I believe it's good for the next quarter at 200, and then it starts to drop. So it'll drop in half, and then it'll drop another half off of that in the following quarter. So people are really concerned about when the 200,000 is reached and what the Model 3 deliveries look like at that point. And Tesla has a little bit of leeway. They can game the system a little bit because, of course, they ship cars across to North America, outside of the U.S. They ship them to Canada, they ship them to Europe, they ship them to Asia, to Australia. They're shipping all over the place. So they do have the ability to game the system a little bit, but they're also, again, answering to Wall Street, as an earlier story has mentioned. So it becomes a real question of how can they use the tax incentive to the best of their advantage, but have to keep the cars rolling out the door as well to keep everyone that's investing happy.
That's the hard part, that balance, keeping customers and investors happy and also keeping the tax credit alive as long as possible.
Right. So certainly with this number of 140,000 that was reached just recently, actually earlier in this week, the article indicates that the tax credit is probably good, deep into 2018 is what they believe, the full tax credit. But after that, it becomes shady as to when things start to drop off. So again, you've got a little breathing room, but again, with Tesla not pushing out as many Model 3s as they had hoped, that kind of hurts the situation too.
Yeah.
So it really is a fine line as to what goes on and what happens based on timing.
And obviously, Model S and X owners are happy or order people who want to buy an S and an X because the Model 3 isn't taking away all the tax credits.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, they're not going to sell the S and the X to those volumes, but you're right. Anybody that wants an S or an X is guaranteed a tax credit, basically. They have no issue in getting it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The time they can deliver it, and I don't think they're more than 2 or 3 weeks out on S and X, are they?
No, not at all. So it's you get them in a fairly quick turnaround time too.
Yeah.
And I do have one more story, a surprise story.
One more, yes.
Just one more thing.
One more thing.
There was a gentleman that was out wandering around in front of an industrial park just today and happened to notice a strange looking tractor trailer sitting out front. So I'm going to share this picture here. And you can see that there's a semi out front with a large pack behind the actual driver's cab. And you've got, a small cab. There's 2 people in the cab. And what this person found kind of interesting was that, there was no noise coming from it. Now, obviously, the truck may have been turned off. But we'll just kind of play the minute video here. And you can see the gentleman approach the truck, kind of scoping out what's going on. I believe this guy was someone that, had a good idea about what this possibly could be.
Yeah, I don't notice those tall vertical smokestacks either.
The missing completely, no exhaust. Isn't that kind of interesting? And this truck is just sitting there with its four-way flashers on at the side of the street, and the two men in the cab are preoccupied with something. And this gentleman just kind of continued to scope out the vehicle until he kind of gets noticed that he is outside filming this cab just sitting here. And the guys in the truck are looking around. I think about here, you can see their heads kind of turn.
Yeah.
And one guy says to the other, we should maybe do this someplace else.
Let's silently move. Quick, turn on the noisemaker. Turn on the diesel noise generator.
Yeah. Or they're parked near an airport, so the actual audio has an airport plane or a noise of plane right now.
Yeah.
But they got their signal on, and they're just waiting for a car to pass, and away they go. And look at the speed this thing takes off.
Look at that. That doesn't look like... Oh, even empty. That's pretty quick.
Okay, so fantastic video, right? So you can understand that this may be a mule, but look at the picture from last week that we never noticed. Here in the red box is the mule. There it is. It is in the picture with the prototype and the prototype cap. There it is sitting in the background, what we just saw pull away from in front of that industrial plaza.
That's funny.
So great news here from Inside EVs. Reported on this just a few hours ago. Wow. And I had to share it with everybody because it was certainly relevant to what we were talking about.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, so there's a mule, and as we saw, no smokestacks. The thing pulled away like greased lightning. So, you ever seen a transport truck make that kind of speed out of there? Like, even if the trailer was empty, that's still impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a video trick or something. Yeah, whatever. Some dude with his phone hit the speed up video button. I think that was what it looked like.
And then for us, we never noticed that other thing with the box sitting in the photo from last week. So it's perfect tie-in. There it is. It's sitting there in the photo evidence from last week. So we have a pretty darn good idea of what that is and what it's for. But again, as you mentioned last week, Russell, is Tesla, did they not care about this? Because they're not making too many attempts to hide any of this, are they? Driving around in broad daylight on a California street, don't really care.
Number one, it's really hard to do stuff secret in public anymore. And number two, it's called marketing. It's called a teaser video, except they didn't have to pay for production.
That's true. That's true.
This guy or person, I don't know, whoever it was, this human walked out of some building and saw this truck and went, now that's curious.
Exactly. So anybody out there in Southern California, keep your eyes open because I'm sure that mule's running around all over the place.
Yeah. If the tractor doesn't have smokestacks and has an odd white package behind the cabin.
And it drives like a sports car. So it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, just maybe don't challenge them to a race. Okay.
That's right. Just
saying. Nice job, Mark. That was beautiful. Nice way to end the show.
Thank you.
Well, so that's it for this week. Mark, can I pass over to you?
Let's remind everybody that they can follow us on Facebook at the Tesla Life #1. You can see us there. Please subscribe. If you enjoy the show, we'd love to see you follow us along through the week. And as mentioned earlier, please join our Twitter page at the Tesla Life as well. So we'll see you during the week in those media outlets.
Search the Tesla Life Show. Look for our exciting red logo and subscribe there. That way you get notified automatically when we post videos and when the show goes on air.
Perfect.
Mark, thanks very much.
Thank you, Russell. Another show in the books, and we got through all that news. So fantastic.
So goes Tesla Life episode number 24. Thanks to all of you for watching or listening. Check in with us next week and find out what is amazing about the Tesla Life.
Thanks, Lee Moon.
Oh, thank you, Lee Moon. And feel better, Lee. Oh wait, I gotta pot this down. Lee Moon, the man who composed and performed that music and lets us use it for free. He's been a little under the weather. Send him some good thoughts. Hopefully he'll be back to 100% very soon. Thanks, Lee. Thank you for that, Mark. See you next week.